All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining Jackie and I. Jackie and I went to high school together, and this is the first time we've been seeing each other like this in this capacity since 2002. So it's been a really long time. But as I said, we went to high school together. But I started looking. Or I don't remember where I was doing or why I was scrolling that day or looking for what, but I happened to see Jackie's beautiful smile in one of her pictures, and she looked absolutely radiant, and I needed to know what she was doing. And that's when I started looking at her profile and found out that she was an intimacy coach, and I was just blown away. So if you have not started following her on Instagram, I'll have her put her handle in the chat there so you can. But I was just really impacted by how she was chatting about relationships, about her own relationship, how she was reaching out to other women with a lot. We all very much are different, but we are all very much the same in a lot of ways. And so being able to reach a lot of women in such a vulnerable but relatable topic was really just, I felt fit perfectly into Girls Gone Grateful. So with that being said, Jackie, all of us are connected through that page, through Girls Gone Grateful. Some of these women are down here with me in the Keys, and some of these women are spread throughout. So Amanda is in Colorado. Claudia Geiser is in Boston. Kelly, where are you now?
I'm in Buffalo.
Okay, so
I'm still here.
Still, okay, and so we're kind of just spread throughout, and we're gathered by this page. So that's what connects us all. Some of us have other relationships outside of that. I'm a personal trainer for some of them. Amanda is one of my mentors for Juice Plus. So we all have kind of other webs, but the real total connection here is through Girls Gone Grateful, which is a page that I needed to make for myself when I needed it for myself when I didn't have it. And so when I was able to mentally put this together, I wanted to be able to reach other women that may need a group to connect with, to be true to themselves with, and just to have a collaboration with other like-minded women. So with all that being said, thank you so much for being our February speaker. A lot of people had reached out to me wanting to be a part of this, but just based on the time difference, just wasn't going to happen. So I know that a lot of people are going to be looking at this recording later. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you for that. And I love what you're up to. I think that's a beautiful mission, especially during COVID. And I would even say what I've discovered, I'm curious how many women can relate to this, that when you're like past college age and past early like 20s, there's like, it kind of can become isolating because people go off and they're either like they're married or they're starting a family or like they move and things start to get so diffused that you end up feeling more isolated. At least that's been my experience. I know that's not true necessarily for everyone, but then especially with the pandemic, I think that only added to feeling isolated and being at home and like, how do I get the connection that used to be almost built into life, built into like, well, school, college, early 20s, everyone's out kind of like socializing, networking. And then there's a culture change, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm just curious how many people relate to that. If you can, do they have the little reactions? They can put their hand up. Yeah.
They can probably, if you want to, you can put your hand up, or you can use the chat function. If that's something that you prefer to. I don't
either way
know how many people are able to, let's see, I have a couple people. So yeah, I definitely feel that way though. I think that when it comes down to being in your late, like for me, our late 30s, and also being away now from my hometown, it's just becoming, I felt more and more removed. I always kind of felt removed and not, your hometown's your hometown. And even though I've been away from there now for 11 years, I still feel I'm not home. Like it's
right.
But it's not home. And so when the pandemic hit and I was away, even farther away from those that I see, and I couldn't go to work and I couldn't see clients regularly, I felt totally isolated for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love your mission, because this is an opportunity to gather, and I love how, I saw the speaker for January was talking about her journey with weight loss and health and wellness and nutrition. And so I imagine like the eclectic variety that you're going to have in this group will just have something that's relatable for every woman here.
I hope so. Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal, is to make it so that it's not just one channel or one outlet. I happen to be one of the administrators, so health and wellness is in my wheelhouse, but I encourage any woman with a passion to share her mission, and for us to all support one another, because I think a lot of that is missing, especially now, whether it be because we can't be in the physical space together, or it's just everything's changed with the way things are at work with the pandemic. It's nice to have a space for that.
Totally. So cool. I would love to hear too. I know that there's three, Carrie, Claudia, and is it Donna or Donna? I don't want to say
it's Donna.
Is it Donna? Okay. That the three of you are here. And so I'm just curious and whoever else, even if your video is off and you're listening, if you maybe can share in the chat. I'm just curious how many women are in relationships. So I know who I'm speaking to, like what, are you, and I think I'd actually love to hear from each of you, like how many years are you in? Are you dating? Like let me just get a sense of who's in the room, because that'll help me know what I'm going to speak to and make it more relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Carrie, you unmuted. So can you share a little bit about your current status?
I'm in a relationship actually with Jen's brother, Elliot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was in a very abusive relationship that for 18 years, which was a little ridiculous that I put myself through that. But I had 3 kids, and I just thought it'll get better. It'll get better. It'll get better. It never got better. Mm-hmm. So he actually had kicked me out, which was perfect. I went out on my own. Elliot was a friend first. We have been friends for now going on 3 years, together for 1 year. He taught me a lot about myself, and it's a different kind of love. And it's something that I never thought I could actually have or get. And with him, I do have that. So
don't be sorry.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
He's just being friends and knowing from a different perspective. Like I thought it was one way, and he taught me to love myself first and foremost, and to make sure that I was happy first before anything. And I had a really, really hard time dealing with that, because I basically put literally everybody first before myself, because that's just the way it was. That's how it always was, always had been. And it took me a little while to learn, but I did. And I am forever grateful for him and for Jen and for everybody that's new in my life, because it's nothing but positive. So I'm in love.
That's so beautiful.
It's a nice love. It's not an abusive love. It's a grown-up love. It's something that I never thought in a million years that I could ever have, want, or get, because I was so broken, but not anymore.
Sounds like a whole new chapter, or a whole new book, really.
Whole
new life.
At 42 years old, I was like, am I really going to continue doing this? My grandmother passed away at 96. And I was like, do you really want to go through another 45 years of an abusive relationship? And it was completely and totally fake. Everybody thought everything was perfect, because that's the way I made it to be, because of the fact that I have 3 kids. But inside it was one way, and outside it was another. And now I don't have to do that. Now I don't have to hide from anything. So it's a great feeling.
Thank you for sharing. Great. So that gives me a sense you're in a brand new, in love, safe, loving relationship. Congratulations.
It is a great word.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Carrie.
Claudia, that you can't see, and Amanda both have shared that they've both been married both for 18 years. So long marriages.
Same, Carrie. Wow. There's a common theme with the number here. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
You
All
want
right.
to share?
Yeah. And just take yourself off mute.
Okay. Hey, Kelly. Oh, I see that new little baby.
Yes. Sorry. I'm like
Sweet.
balancing it a million things over here.
Literally,
I was
including
just,
a human.
Yeah, I was just feeding the baby, pumping, and trying to pet the dog and trying to listen in. So hi.
Hi.
Sounds like a mom.
yeah, right. In one hand. So first of all, I'm super excited. Hi, Jackie. It's been a million years.
Hi,
How are
Kelly.
you?
Good to see you.
You too. So relationship wise, this October will be 10 years with my husband, but we've only been married 2.5. We just got married June of 2019.
Cool. I love that. You had a long courtship.
Yeah. You know what? We weren't ready. We weren't ready when everybody else was ready for us to be ready. We just weren't. So
and then you were?
Didn't.
Yeah.
We're not into peer pressure. So
I love that. I love that you're following your truth. You followed your truth.
Yeah. We were, I don't know, we were partying and having a good time.
Yeah.
And
love it.
It was the first relationship for me where he didn't really take any of my excuses for doing anything or not doing anything. I had plenty of people who were like, oh yeah, of course you should miss out on this or stay home or go to this or don't do that. And that wasn't great. That wasn't the truth for me. So meeting my husband, he was just like, no, like that's enough. I don't want to hear any more of this. You can't do it, or you don't know how to, or you're not smart enough, or you're not talented enough. We're done with that. Just say what you actually mean. If you don't want to do it, just say you don't want to do this. If you don't want to interview for this job, don't do it. But if you do, then I don't know why you're not putting 100% into this.
I love that. That's some masculine integrity right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
I love how men provide that.
Big, strong doses of that. But that's gorgeous. It was fully needed. He needed a softer side and I needed more tough love. And so it balanced. We balanced.
Beautiful. I love that partnership. Thank you, Kelly.
Donna just chatted in that she's also been in a long-term relationship for 18 going on 19 years.
There's a theme. Love it.
Yeah.
It's so great. Okay. And Claudia, did you want to share too? Or did you already share in the, there's two Claudias.
18 years. Yep.
Well, that's iPhone Claudia, right?
Oh yeah. iPhone Claudia. Claudia Gleiser. I don't know if she wants to share, if anyone else wants to. No. Okay.
No. Okay. She's like, I'm going to be here. Just listen to it. Okay, cool. I love that. That's totally welcome as well. And then, okay, Amanda, I saw hers. Okay, great. So it sounds like everyone's in a relationship as far as I know. And long-term for all intents and purposes. Carrie, yours is the newest, and that's beautiful too. And then Jen, what about yours?
I am in a long-term relationship that's very early, but it's going to be very long-term. It's we're getting married this year, and we've been together for almost 2 years.
Nice. Love it. Yay. And you're getting married this year. When's the wedding date?
June 4th. Yeah.
Congrats. That's
Thanks.
exciting. Super exciting. I think I've seen your photos that you shared, and it sounds like you two have a lot in common too. Like your lifestyle is something that you really, it's a huge part
finally. I did it all wrong with a horrible human the first time, and didn't think I would ever do it again. And then life shows you in a different direction and takes you in a different place that you thought you would go to. And then I found him, and it's been everything I needed to be. And I'm very lucky.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Were you married previously, or was it a long-term relationship?
Yeah, no, I was married. It was a horrible, cheating, abusive relationship. Yeah. Restraining orders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's past.
It is. And it's, it teaches you what you don't want. And I think it's fascinating that Carrie found her way to Yeah, she saw her face. She's like, yep, teach us what you don't want. I think it's fascinating that she found her way to your brother, and that there's, you know, something that you can really relate as like a sister-in-law or whatever, how you want to say it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. It's refreshing to be able to have someone in Elliot's life that is as, you know, grounded as she is, but also someone that I can, you know, chat with.
Yeah, you can get each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I really want to support in ways that's most customized. So I'm, you know, I really want to open it up to questions.
Okay.
You suggested some questions,
I did.
Jen, and there's so much I can talk about, a lot of things for hours. So like,
well, why don't
I have some ideas.
Yeah. Why don't I kind of just lead? Because I know if not, it can be a little intimidating. And then if anyone wants to chime in, please feel free to. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So, I think a big part of this is also, Jackie, if like Amanda, I was just about to say this. So Amanda just said she'd love to hear your story. Like, how did you get into this?
That makes sense.
Yeah. And what is it that, you know, I've put some stuff out there on Girls Gone Grateful of what you do and how you've done it, but we don't really know exactly what it is yet.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to share. So I've been with my husband for 9 years, married for 5. And well, I'll come back to the relationship piece in a second. So I'm an intimacy coach, and I have been for 12 years or more. Kind of like the time gets a little wonky, especially with COVID. Start losing track.
What year are we in?
Yeah. And so what that means is intimacy coach. Like, intimacy is a loaded word. Like, what does that mean? And it means different things to different people. So I'll share what it means for me. So I support women in being connected to herself first. Like, how do I become intimate and connected and develop awareness with my own body? And this could be, you know, sexually, spiritually, all, you know, holistically. And then how do I create intimacy, connection inside of relationship? Particularly, I really focus on long-term relationship, because in long-term, we all, you know, it ebbs and it flows, and there's highs and lows, and it can be, in general, if long-term relationships should have you second guessing in some ways. So if you're not there yet, you'll get there. if you're earlier in the relationship, the first couple of years, you might even still bump into that then, but at some point you're really going to bump into, you know, is this really the person for me? Are we really compatible? We're so different in these ways, or, you know, like, we're so similar in these ways, and this is what we bonded over for the first couple of years. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, like, this feels like a problem. And so that's just kind of like what naturally happens. It's the function of relationship. I believe it actually doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It means that your relationship is functioning as it's meant to. So I just want to put that out there first, because it can be a refreshing point of view. Like, oh, if we're like bumping into conflict, or if I'm second guessing my whole life, or my partner, is this the right partner for me? Like, that's actually normal. Like, that's the function of relationship. It's meant to have you up against, essentially asking yourself, who am I? What do I really desire? What do I want? And who do I want to create life with? And if it is with this person, how do I create that if we are different in these ways? So reconciling differences, essentially, and or discovering maybe you know, sometimes we do part. Sometimes, you know, relationships do part at this point. But I am a big advocate of, actually, if there is love, if it's a loving, functional, non-abusive relationship, then more often than not, I've guided women to actually discover even more depth of connection, like more satisfying sex if the sex is getting like wonky, or like there's a lot of disconnection there. So yeah, that kind of gives you the sense of what I do, right? As an intimacy coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the reason I really got into it, gosh, I feel like my whole life I've just been really kind of deep, talking about like you know, what really matters to people. And in relationships, like I've been always obsessed with like, how do I love really well? How do I, I've always been obsessed with like I've dated so many people because I'm so fascinated by men in general, personally. That's my design. And so, yeah, just like learning how to love all these different people and then how to love one person long term, right? Being with someone for 9 years and someone who is very, very different from me. So I'm like really an expert on like, how do I make this work with someone who's so different from me? A little background, he's a beautiful man from Mexico. So first off, we only speak Spanish together, not my native tongue. So like, like there's that. It's like, oh my God, like we speak different languages. We literally come from different cultures, whole different worldview. He's, you know, he's undocumented. So what that means, other than the obvious, is that he grew up really poor. And so I don't have that background. There is a way that that's molded his life. And then there I come along and I'm like, miss like self-development. And, you know, I've been doing personal self-development work, spiritual work since I was 17. I became a yoga teacher in my early 20s. Like I have this path of just like learning and education and lots of privilege to have that, in fact. And then I met this man and he didn't have access to all of this. And he had to drop out of school when he was 12 years old to support his family. Like it blows my mind.
Yeah.
So just illustrating how different we are. Right. So, and so I've had to really learn how to be with someone who might not value personal development or like spirituality in the way that I do. For the longest time, for the first part of our relationship, like the first 5 years, 4 or 5 years, it was really a problem for me. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if he's the person for me. I broke up with him for 6 months because of it. I'm like, I just don't know. He can't meet me where I want him to meet me, is what I thought. And so, you know, long story short, I had learned how to actually see how his personal development and his spirituality is alive. It just looks really different from mine. So I couldn't even see it. I was like, oh, he's just not into it at all. And I had to really learn and appreciate, not just like in like a resigned way, like, oh, I mean, I guess I'll take his, you know, his Catholic upbringing. Like, I guess that's fine. No, I like love it now. And I was born Catholic into that faith too. I don't practice it anymore, but I had to learn how to love his way of doing things as opposed to rejecting it or thinking it was a problem. So that's one piece, like around spirituality. And then like personal development, he's not interested in like going to a workshop and like having all these like conscious conversations. I don't know if anybody here knows what I'm talking about. If you've played with these fields or these workshops, or if this feels new to you, maybe, I don't know. Let me know, like in the chat, if you know, self-identify as like a personal development seeker, someone who goes to workshops, read books on self-help. Like, I'm just kind of curious. Let me know in the chat. Yeah. Generally, you know, people who are into wellness, but definitely I would say there's like a flavor of what that looks like for you, right? Very fitness oriented. Tony Robbins, and it was, yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know what UPW is. I haven't heard of that. Now I'm curious. Maybe you can share what that stands
for. It's just his sort of signature program, Unleash the Power Within. It's a day program versus Date with Destiny is like a longer week.
Oh, okay. Got it. Unleash the Power Within. Yeah. I think I've heard of that. Okay. Just didn't know the acronym. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, and definitely Kelly too. Okay, cool. So yeah, I just was like, oh, you know, like putting the book here for him to read, or like, can you come to this workshop with me? And he'd be like, oh, you know, and it really didn't feel good for him or for me, because then he was somewhat open and he supports me in what I do. Like, it's not a problem, but I just wanted him to like show up as excited as me and like have these like big conversations that are super deep and intense. And he's just like, whoa, that's not who I am. And I was like, fuck, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do life together? That's such a big part of me. So yeah, on that piece, what I've learned, this is another thing I feel like I'm an expert in because I've had to learn so much in this relationship, is he's very nonverbal. Like, I think it could be partly the language barrier too, but he's an introvert and he's a man of few words anyway, even in his, speaking to people in his own language. And so I've just learned that he's a man of action. Like, it's very traditional in a way. Like, so I've had to learn more like traditional values in our relationship. Traditional meaning that he shows in how he takes care of our family, how he works every day and never complains, how when he comes in the door, he kisses me when he walks in the door and is on the floor, like playing with the dog. Like, he's just very much like a provider, the traditional provider, caretaker. And I didn't count it. Like, it didn't count before. I'm like, yeah, that's just a given. He should just do that. And it's a problem that he's not doing these workshops with me. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so generous. Like, I cry because it's so beautiful now, but it was very humbling to really get how devoted he is to me and to let myself receive that much generosity, how he brings food home for me and he like gives me back massages, but he won't talk a lot, but he'll do it. Do you know what I mean? So I had to really learn that. And that's something I'm really proud of, but it took me years to really get past how I thought he should show up. So I'm like, I can just pause there and just see, what comes up for you women around that. Like, is there something, I can talk about sexuality a little bit too, but for now, I just want to pause on this part about like reconciling differences. And, is there something about your partner that drives you crazy? You're like, I wish they would just do it this way. And I feel like it's a problem if you feel like sharing, because it can be vulnerable to share that stuff. But
I encourage you to share in the chat if you want to, while you guys are thinking about it. I can just, kind of chime in here and see who has what they want to say. But I think that as being in a previous marriage and now being into a new relationship and having the experiences that I have, it is about finding out how they love you and how you can receive that and if you choose to receive that or not. And that was something that, not just for me, but for a lot of my girlfriends, it's a learning curve because we expect something to be a certain way, to be told we're loved all the time, to be just swept off our feet and twirled around and danced with on a regular basis. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there are men and women out there that will do that, and that's how they show that. But I think that a lot more than not, and just from my own experiences and from hearing to my girlfriends, that's not how it always is. And that we sometimes overlook the things like the coming home every day, hardworking, bringing you lunch. Those are the gestures that really can be some of the most loving, for sure. So, I appreciate that honesty, because it's true. It's not always like, we very much, make it cinema, think that should be like how it is in the cinema and the movies, and it's not how it is. So, well, I'd like to, while people are perhaps being a little shy right now, and that's okay, how would you, since this is a group of women that are in long-term relationships, not so much chat about, we can chat about whatever, not necessarily about comfortable sexually with their partner, but feeling comfortably sexually with themselves so that they can feel comfortable with their partner. So when you asked questions, I was literally like dying inside because I couldn't, I was nervous about what to ask or what not to ask.
Can you put Deborah on mute?
Yeah. And So I created a list. And so one of the things that I really feel that comes to my attention is that many women that I know don't feel comfortable within their own bodies and allow their insecurities and thoughts to get in the way of being able to enjoy themselves while being intimate. Anything that you would encourage how to let women go of these insecurities when it comes to being with their partners? Because it's something that I think stops a lot of us from being able to enjoy the true relating part with each other, because we're so closed off, because we're so worried about, how do I look? How do I, am I, do I look okay? Am I wearing the right thing? Do I smell all right? And like all these external things. And so we can't allow ourselves to be connected with somebody.
Yeah, this is a big topic and there's a lot to say about it. What I would start with is how connected are you to like spending time with your body and learning about what your body likes, like self-pleasure practice, and not just self-pleasure practice, but just in general. I think it's like feeling connected to pleasure overall. So this is a big topic, but we can easily go through our days and not feel any pleasure if it has to be kind of intentional. Like if I just dropped in this moment, you could even do this right now, and if you closed your eyes and you just let your hands rest on your thighs and just see when you breathe, what feels good about breathing. And it might sound like overly simplistic, but that's where we start. It's like, how is breathing pleasurable? You might even notice you get some like goosebumps because there's like cool air entering your nose. You might feel your body relax, and that feels pleasurable. And then you just start there, something super simple, and you can go ahead and blink your eyes open if you close them. But the next thing might be to like start rubbing your hands like along your thighs. Like how would that feel? So it's actually learning how to find pleasure in every moment. And then, the more advanced practices would be self-pleasure, like finding out like what touch feels good on my body, even before I'm like touching, I'm going to say the word pussy. I hope everyone's comfortable with that word. But even before and we're talking about intimacy. So, even before you like go right to your clit and start stroking there, like what does your body need to actually, for you to drop in and be like, what feels good to me? Because what that does is it takes you out of the external, like, how do I look? And it's about like, how do I feel? And sexiness and confidence and starts there, like with letting yourself feel good and knowing what actually feels good and giving it to yourself, and then learning how to ask your partner for it. So there's a lot of skills and all of this.
That's a lot of skills. So when you are doing your intimacy coaching, and you're saying that this is common, so everyone here can feel like take a breath of fresh air, and that if that's how you're feeling, then you're not alone in that. And I think that that's where a lot of this stigma comes from, is that women aren't supposed to feel like they shouldn't want, that it's more of a man's role. And I think that a lot of people get into that questioning of themselves, is like, am I okay to ask for this or want this or need this? And how do I broach that subject with my partner, who maybe I've been with for, X amount of years, and that we've never had this dialogue before? How do I open up, maybe saying, I want to try new things. I want to feel good. I want to explore. Like, is there certain lines of communication that you've experienced to be more beneficial or helpful with opening that line of communication?
Well, I think it depends on your partnership. So every relationship is different. So, you know, with my partner, he's less verbal. So I have a certain approach to him. So it's hard for me to give a blanket.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and some men are more receptive to like having conversations for sure, which is great. And I love that. So what I found though, overall, whether, you know, it's verbal or nonverbal communication, is first starting to explore yourself. I'm a big advocate. So basically my work with couples, I start with a woman first. I want you to all know that. And so the reason why I start working with the woman before I go into any couples work is because I believe that the woman is the catalyst for the depth, connection, and passion. Not because men are bad, stupid, or wrong. It's just not part of their design. Like, and this is very traditional, so take it or leave it, because, you know, I want to honor like fluid constructs. And this is very much heteronormative, how I'm speaking. It's what I know, and that's what I teach. So, you know, take what I share with a grain of salt, and just know that some of the things that I share can apply to like same-sex relationships too. So, and a lot of my lens is, you know, specific to like men and women and how they're different and how they relate. Yeah. So what I would say is that I work with women first because women are designed for communing, for community, for connection. Like you can just see it historically, you know, women gather, we go to the bathroom together. We're just like, we're more communal by nature, by design. And men are more individual by nature. Like they go out, they might hunt together, but they're really doing it separately, or like whatever they're doing out in the world, hunting in the job, the workforce, you know, it's a very like, they've got their responsibility and they've got their uniform on, and it's less about like, let's sit around in a circle and create something together, right? It just generally speaking, it's stereotype, but it's true for a reason. So I work with women first. And so what I would say is that if your sex life isn't where you want it to be, is start with you. And where do you have hangups with letting yourself want? Like you mentioned, Jen, that's a really, really common one. Like shame around your sexuality. I know, you know, growing up Catholic, there was so much privatization and shame around sexuality. So there's so much to unearth here and healing to happen. What I want to say is one of the things that I teach is erotic embodiment. So what that means is I teach women to embody, to feel in their body, their erotic nature. And erotic is everything from explicitly sexual to sensual, everything from feeling pleasure, feeling the air on your skin, to feeling comfortable being naked and exploring edgier sex in the bedroom, like the whole gamut, right? Okay. So that's, I literally teach that. Like we do exercises, we do in group. Because this is another thing, is that women together, there's a lot of wounds to heal amongst women because we have lots of competition that's built into our society, and it's sad, you know, like comparing ourselves to each other, and, you know, she's more beautiful than me, and like she's skinnier than me, and like blah, 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 all that stuff. And we don't have a lot of safety amongst women as a norm. Some women do have this in their close girl friendships, but a lot of us don't. Like it was just a couple of years ago that I got naked with women. And I mean that in like a platonic, like a platonic kind of sense. Like I was comfortable, like going skinny dipping. Like I was terrified, you know, like there was just so much shame around body and just being seen and feeling exposed. So that would be the first place, is like, I can share my screen. I think, I don't know if I can share my screen, because I would like to show you a little bit about what I teach.
Sure. I know that
you can have some visuals.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, because that can be helpful. Mm-hmm. So while you figure out how to make me, I think a co-host is how I need to. Yeah. I think you can just you know, just make me a co-host under the three dots, maybe.
There you go.
Oh yeah, host now. Okay, great. So basically, I want to make the work that I do really relatable. So I relate it to the seasons, because we can all relate to the 4 seasons. We all know what those are like. And so let me share with you how I teach women about how to connect to their eroticism. Let me just get this right here. And I'll share with you too, like if you want to actually taste this for yourself, I have an event coming up. So I want you to know that too.
Yeah.
If you're like, this sounds really cool. Sounds a little scary, but it sounds cool.
Yeah.
If you feel a little intimidated, that's normal.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, she does some really crazy stuff. So I have an event coming up. It's called the Eros event. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'll cover up some of that noise there. Okay. So it's called In Her Nature because it's all about connecting to nature, your nature as a woman. You think of like Mother Earth, like it's the earth itself, the planet has 4 seasons. So this is like universal law. This is just physics. This is just what happens is that we have these 4 seasons and every season has an element that connects to it. Whoops. So for example, the season of autumn, I call this the season of alchemy. So when you think of alchemy, if you have any relationship to it, like in science, it's like the changing of chemicals or like the transformation of material. So when you think of fall, the leaves are withering and dying and composting. Like composting is an alchemical process. So this is related to the water element and embodying your wildness. So what that means is if you can't connect to your grief, if you can't connect to your anger, your sexuality is going to be stunted because your sexuality is part of your emotionality, right? So like there's like a primalness to sexuality that we don't often give ourselves permission to have, like the wanting to fuck, for example, that's wildness. So there's an element of like being okay with being an animal, being okay with your anger, being okay with your grief, these things that feel messy and sticky and, ugly, not pretty. Yeah. So we don't have a lot of approval for them as women. I'm curious how this is landing for everyone in the room. How do you feel about your relationship with anger, grief, your animalness? Like, I'm just really curious. Where'd the chat go?
Yeah, I'm looking for my chat. So like, I just think that it is a very much unexplored topic for me. It's not something that I've ever even been asked how I am with my anger or my grief. So for me, this is new. And I think that it's something that I can only speak for myself, but like if I were to, I don't think it's something that comes up regularly. So I have, I think, a very good handle on how to even explain how I feel.
Okay, beautiful. Is that similar for everyone else? Is this like, whoa, I haven't really even thought about my relationship to grief or anger or my animal self. Yeah.
I
don't even know
off my video so it doesn't distract everyone while I bounce around with this child. But I'm with you, Jen. Like, I don't even know how to broach this.
I've never even thought about anger, grief, and eroticism in the same sentence.
Yeah, it's your emotionality. And if you don't bring your full spectrum of emotion to your sex life, it's muted, it's limited. The range is smaller. Because to get into like really like super eye-gazing, heart-opening sex is super vulnerable.
Right.
And so if you have all this like grief or anger that's still in your body, okay, this gets into deeper stuff, but like your body, my expertise is about how the nervous system holds history. So your nervous system holds trauma. This is true for every human being.
Yeah.
And so we all have it. I don't mean to say it to scare you. It's just being human. And so the extent to which you do nervous system work and you actually do like journaling and you feel the grief from that relationship that you had that was painful. And maybe there's a piece of it that you haven't totally let yourself feel yet because it's scary to feel that shit.
Yeah.
Like it might kill me. That's what it feels like sometimes. It feels like a huge wave, like a tidal wave. That's what grief is. That's what pain is. It's intense, but it's that intensity that helps charge our sexuality. Do you see how they go together?
Absolutely. So I'm thinking of people that I know that may have experienced major grief, major loss, major trauma, and of both sexes.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't want to assume, but so I'm looking for your opinion that what you're saying is also true for men then, right? So
man
has experienced the major trauma, if a man has experienced a major grief or the loss. And I think
absolutely
sometimes people also, and again, women, men, we're similar, we're different. So I'm using the term men and women, but however you want to relate to this is that it can be also something like a loss of a job, like a loss on that spectrum, or a loss of a loved one, or a loss of whatever it may be, like that can hurt the spirit, can then be affected.
Oh, absolutely.
In your sexual nature.
Yeah, because it's your power.
Yeah.
It's your relationship to yourself, to your feeling of safety in your body, your feeling of wholeness, your feeling of power, of feeling strong, of feeling confident. And I mean, sex is so vulnerable. So it requires you to, or not, like either, or you have sex that maybe is just a little more, I don't want to use the word superficial because it sounds judgmental and I don't mean to judge it. If you want to just, if sex for you just feels really good like that, great. Like I am an advocate for whatever feels good for you. But what I've discovered in working with the women I've worked with is that there's always like usually more deeper, more connected, more like, holy shit, I feel like my partner just saw into my soul kind of sex, or like we just like really fucked for the first time and it was like wild and crazy and I didn't have shame for the first time. Before I kind of wanted to like explore that edgy stuff, but I was too embarrassed, like stuff like that. That's what I hear from the women I work with. So if you want more for your sex, I would say wildness is the place to go.
Yeah, dig in there.
To start. And that's the place to start. So that's just the one season, right? So then we get into winter here, right? And the air element, and this is embodying your intuition. So this gets into a little bit more spirituality. Everyone is different in their exploration of spirituality and connection to something bigger than them, whether you call it universe, God, or nothing. If you don't have a relationship to it, you don't have to. It's your connection to knowing. It's your connection to truth. Like I was talking about earlier with Kelly, like her and her partner really followed the truth. So that tells me that, her intuitions developed to that extent that they were like, this isn't the time to get married when everyone else is. And now it was, so there's skills to develop here in developing your intuition and learning what's true for you. Because so many of us don't even know what's true for us. We're just doing what's been prescribed by what our mom wanted for us, what society says, we should do with our lives, get married, have a baby, or maybe not. Maybe you go travel the world in a tiny house. I don't know. But like, this is the thing, is like discovering what you actually want.
So we're, obviously I want to encourage everyone to chat with you and to find an intimacy coach such as yourself. But if you don't have that means, like, where do you start? Where do you start having those conversations of figuring out? What do you suggest?
I mean, books, right? Books or YouTube, like generous resources. What I'll do, Jen, is I can share some books and put it in the Facebook group.
Great. That'd be great.
As like starting point, just like for people who are like, whoa, this is all just like blowing my mind. Where do I even start? Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll send some books and maybe figure out, I don't know about YouTube offhand, but maybe I have some videos. You can look at some more of my videos that I've created where I've shared more about this stuff. And then I can share about the event coming up next week. Yeah. That's a great way to it's an introduction to this stuff.
I would love, that'd be great.
Cool. How are we doing with time? Just because
we're probably going to be winding down here. Okay. I knew that I knew we could probably do this for hours and
Mhm.
really, dig in, but to just be able to introduce you to the group and to know that A, you're available, and B, that this is something that many, 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 many women are interested in, want help with, are curious. I mean, you name it. And so, making this connection, I want any of you guys that are on here now, if of course, you can reach out to her individually, or you can reach out as a group, whatever you feel most comfortable with. But that, that intimacy, relationship, sexuality, eroticism, all of that is a deep, deep part of our interwoven self, and that there is no shame, and that we are all sexual beings, and that if there's specifically things that you're looking for to have a more fulfilling, intimate life and relationship, that Jackie is somebody that can be there for you. And that is someone that will help guide you through hard parts of relationships, or hard parts with yourself. And, now enter what we know that our nervous system is holding on to a lot that we might need to get through. And that Jackie is a resource for us to get more in touch with our sexual side. And that I just really appreciate you taking the time to get on the call and introduce yourself and give us a preview of what it is that you do and what your knowledge is, and that you can be a part of our group and I have something so special to offer us if we want it. And so thank you so much. Ladies, if you guys have any questions, I would love for you to put them in the chat, or you can take yourself off of mute and ask away.
Any questions, let me know, and I can take this off share. I guess the last thing, since it's up though, is just to, briefly touch on, obviously
please do.
Illustrated here. I can just speak to it, briefly. So there's embodying your intuition, actually knowing what's true for you. What are your truest desires versus living a life that isn't actually true to what you want? It's like what you think you can get away with, or what you think is realistic. That's just a big conversation. And then embodying your pleasure, that gets into more obvious sexuality, embodying like the slut in you. And that's such a shamed word, but I bring that word back to reclaim it, that our desire, that our wanting of sex, that our sexual hunger is good and sacred and beautiful. And I, love my sluttiness. And when I say sluttiness, I don't mean promiscuousness, and I'm not even knocking that. Like, if you want to be promiscuous, beautiful. I do work with women in monogamous relationships, so there's that. But there's different constructs of relationships, non-monogamous, and all the things. And all the power to you if that's what's true for you, right? So that's why the truth piece is so important. But assuming monogamy, I teach you how to be a slut with your spouse, right? Like how to embody that part of you. And then the last one, the earth element and leadership. This is your influence. This is the part of you that's like, that has impact in the world, like the boss bitch, like that kind of, the woman who has boundaries, but isn't closed. This is the thing. This is why, like when we're called bitches, it's usually not meant as a positive thing, because it's talking about a woman whose heart is closed. And so when I talk about bringing boss bitch back, that bitchiness, it's like, I'm a woman who knows her boundaries, but keeps her heart open. That I'm a woman who I can connect with anyone in any moment and not give up or like be a doormat, or, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's really a powerful skill to develop too, is your boundaries. So that's all about erotic embodiment. This is next week. It's happening Monday through Friday. So I just wanted you to know, each day we're going to go through each element. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, we go through all four as like a recap.
Okay.
So if you want to get a sense of it, that's how you would get a sense. Go ahead.
How would they sign up if anyone wanted to sign up?
Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat, and I'll put it in the Facebook group too.
Okay, wonderful.
So that's the erotic embodiment. And then if you want to learn more about like how I teach relationships, that's me, my beautiful Mexican husband. That was from our wedding. I'm going to break down, this is my whole framework for teaching long-term satisfaction. There's a lot to it, as you can see. So I'm going to break all that down on Sunday. So that's this Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. It's a masterclass. You can ask questions. It's meant to be interactive.
Okay.
But yeah, I teach all those pieces. So I'll put the link. Let me stop the share.
Okay.
So you can sign up. I'm offering half off admission to the event. So I can tell you the code, and then I know if there's any questions, I can answer those.
How often do you do these?
The next one will be probably in June. I do them four times a year.
Okay. All right.
4 times a year. Yeah.
That would be, because I know that you said it's this weekend for this one, and then the next one will be in June. So that's enough time for anyone else that might be interested in doing one that maybe can't make it this weekend, but want to partake in it.
You can always watch the replay. So even if you can't make it live, you'll have access to the replay. And I always recommend getting in on it when you feel the pull. Otherwise, life happens.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
that was a good idea. Yeah. So if you feel it, that's the link to learn about it. It's called the Galentine's Love and Eros Experience, and it has those 2 events. Sunday's love event, and then the Eros event through the week.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then the code to get half off. It's Love and Eros, capital letters. Whoops. You have to plug that in to get 50%.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
I just had one quick question sorry, I missed it. Is it Jaclyn, or do you go by Jackie? I missed the first.
Both. Jackie or Jaclyn works. Yeah.
Did you have you done any work with Sheila Kelly or
S Factor?
Yeah.
I have not personally. I've been to a couple classes here in LA, but so I tried it. I tried it. So I know it. I'm familiar with what you're talking about. The embodiment work that I've done is through a company called Dancing Eros, and they're through Australia, and they work with the archetypes. And so that's the work that I do, but it's similar. Like there's movement and there's pieces of the S Factor in there.
Yeah. I think an S Factor is just like a sensual dance movement that I was introduced to at a bachelorette party, and all the other women had done it, and I never done it, and like the lights turned off and like high heels were put on, and I was like,
where'd I go?
But it was so beautiful to watch, and I was just like a fly on the wall at the time. And I think dancing is such a way we can access our bodies, right? And access that sensuality, because we get in our head so much about it. So that was just an interesting. So I have a good friend that teaches it, so I was just curious. She's in Boulder.
Cool.
Tell her about this event. She'll love this stuff.
Yeah, I will for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I just put my video on. I've been listening with great interest. Clearly I'm older, and
love it.
I commend you girls, women, for being self-aware and listening to your body and knowing what you want. I have a daughter. She'll probably watch. She's a mental health therapist and doing a lot of dating coaching. And my generation, I'm in my 60s, we were never as deliberate as you girls are. And I don't know if that's exactly the word, but really thinking out what you want and not being afraid to ask for it. And I was pretty, and I apologize to you, Kelsey, if I'm sharing anything, if she watches this, but I was very concerned about my daughter knowing what an orgasm was and making sure that she was having them. Because no one taught me that, and it took me a few years to catch up on that. And so this has been very interesting, and I support you all. And thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love advocating for orgasms for your daughter. That's amazing.
Yeah. Not much of that. I don't think I don't know.
Still, I didn't get a lot of that growing up.
I
still think you're ahead of your time, Deborah.
I think so too.
She was slightly humiliated at first. And, and her very good friend from college is a psychologist now. And she had a nice chat with her, and I believe bought her first vibrator. And so at some point, Kelsey's going to be 29 now, and a very happy relationship, getting ready to be married, and they have lots of conversations about it. And at some point, it took a while, she was able to share with me that oh, Julie talked to me, and it was okay to talk about that. But even for young women, there's, mine came from my Catholic background, which would be a whole nother workshop. So I'm going to stop talking, but thank you so much.
I want to hear from you, Deborah, like what desires, whether you share now or in the Facebook group, but I would love to hear like what desires do you have for your life and your eroticism and your sexuality, because there's no expiration date for that.
No, we'll be married 32 years.
Woo!
And
Awesome.
we work on it. He has a lot of difficulty communicating, but he's willing. And it's not as easy as when you're in your 30s. So we kind of have to, I say, work on it a little bit, but maybe not as spontaneous. And we have vibrators, and, there's gel involved, and lots of conversation about what's working. And
love it. I love how open you are about it. That's great. Thank you. That's life is alive and well. Great.
Retirement is good.
Yeah.
Thanks, girl.
Good. Lots of fun to be had in retirement, including more sex.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Deborah.
I think so many, I hope that so many women listen to this, that all of it, but especially this specific part right here, because it takes courage to just share what you share, Deborah, but it's so true in the fact that like there's just not enough conversation that goes around about relationships and sex, and it's a massive part of who we are as people, and it's something
I agree.
Not be shamed. And so it's my hope that even if maybe we can, fingers crossed, people will see this and Jackie would want to come on again now that maybe we broke some ice, and more people sharing, know that this is, you're not alone, and B, we can make it better, and C, we can be in all of this together. So thank you.
And including the men in the conversation as well. So they're not so taken aback or feeling defensive, about their position in the relationship. So Kelsey and Michael have a wonderful communication. So I think that's so helpful and so important. Thanks for doing this.
Thank
Jackie.
you.
To speak to that, what men love is the turned on woman. They can't resist a turned on woman. And so there might be a little bit of like feeling intimidated or maybe taken a little aback at first if their woman starts doing this work. And then all of a sudden she's just like feeling herself, like she's feeling good. But generally men, if they're a little taken aback, they're like along for the ride. They're like, this ride looks like a good ride to get on. So
sometimes not talking about it, but
exactly
doing it works better.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Like I said, this will be, put out there, and then
thank you.
Thank you. And please, reach out to Jackie. What she does is incredible. And we have the blessing of having a 50% discount. So if you can make it this weekend, I think everyone would benefit from it and learn a lot. And thank you again, Jackie, so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great. Love talking about this, and loved your receptiveness. And I know some new stuff came through, and I'm open for questions. So just you can private message me and ask me questions about the event and all the things.
Okay. And then in the chat is Jackie's information about how to reach her, her Instagram account, her website, and then the event with the event code. So take a look at that. And thank you guys. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk soon.
Great. I'll put it in the Facebook group too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. As long as the book recommendations too.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.